Hey, you crazy cats! 42's live streams and videos are simply not available on vinyl. You will have to go to the YouTubes for that. So if you want content about British traditions and culture, cutting edge social commentary from an unapologetically patriotic perspective, along with a side order of madness you simply will not find anywhere else, then this is the place for you. And to all those early adapters in the chat, don't forget to hit the notification bell. That's how you get the good stuff, and make sure you never miss a tasty treat. So with that being said and done, squeeze yourself in. Let's get into it. You know you want to. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening. Please delete as applicable because the internet is worldwide and time zones are indeed a thing. And I got from the intro to having me on the screen without a flaw tonight. We're winning, we're getting better at this shit. Let's move forward. Can I get a wee audio check in the chat, please? And we'll see who all's in. First in the night was Mr. Packer. Duck, you know all about the ducks, Mr. Packer. I said quack. Yes. Real Vincent Griffinson, what about you, chum? Welcome aboard. Oh, hold on. I hadn't planned to, but whenever I seen your message there, I looked it up. So yes, we will be playing on the the special K Acid is in. What about you, chum? Mr. Berger, what about you, chum? Welcome aboard. Anglo-Saxon's in. Evening, brother. Bass is in. What about you, chum? Anglo-Saxon. The wonderful Emma G is in. Now, Emma G no longer has a gallbladder because at the start of this week, she went into the hospital and had it removed because she's been having gallstone pains for quite a number of years, and she's now doing well on the mend. I will say that I've possibly been a pants boyfriend and not cared for it as much as what I should have done, but I was on night shift. That's my excuse, and I'm sticking to it. But I will ask everybody to put an Emma or an E or an EG in the chat for the wonderful Emma G, who is convalescing as we speak. Angles in. Special canvases. And the sound is good. That's called take a full. What that last cat did. What, getting into the box? Or was it the like... there's Budgie saying get well soon. And I will put that in. Oh yeah, there's a name for that. The cats getting themselves all comfy in the box. That's very good. I did not know that. Yes. Right. Now. Oh fuck. Oh, that is class. Thank you, Packer. That's funny. Mm-hmm. I like that. That's good. Right. Yeah, back in the box. Yes. If we could do with getting a lot of things back in their box around this country. As it goes at the minute. Now, let's see. Housekeeping. Go and do a couple of shout outs. Oh, there's Billy's Desert Hangouts. As in, what about you? Glad welcome aboard. Willie was playing all sorts of music earlier on. And what? Yep, where was I? Yep. Ha. This is very good. I'm glad to hear you're enjoying the absence of the gallbladder playing. That could indeed be a Ramones song. Oh, and there's Swill Double. And every time I see it, I always think Safe Working Load, but there's an I in there somewhere. Which makes that not correct, but very good. And welcome aboard, Mr. Swill. That's it. Yes, shout outs. I'm going to presume that tomorrow night there'll be something going on at Ragnar Iron Spears channel. I'll be totally honest with you, I have no fucking clue what's going on over there, but have a look at it for yourselves. That's one thing. Second thing is Robin, Courage is the Cure. If you want kept up to date on what's going on in the world of politics and madness and all sorts of draconian measures, Robin's your girl for that. And she was on the end of the month stream, the last Saturday stream last week, and she will be back again this month. So you'll get to see her again. The other person I had on there who did 2 months at the end last Saturday stream was RPW Media, who does a very similar type of a show, more into the ins and outs of American politics. He being from America, that is every bit natural. Really well researched show, and a great guy. Fucking man like an encyclopedia. So RPW Media, get involved with that. And the other one I like to do a shout out for is the one, the only, the Dave Waffle House. Home. She does Australia. They are us. They are indeed. They are indeed us. And they were very successful in getting the cap kicked out of their country. Yes, RPW is Jimmy's brother. I should have mentioned that. The two brothers have got a different way about going about their lives. Rich is a lot more organized than Jimmy. I will say that, but they're two fucking brilliant guys. I really like their company. So is that. Yes. Dave's Waffle House, the home of the Friday night duck race. The pub for our community streams every night from 8:30. And I will explain to you what the show's about, but that's simply not possible. But what I can do, I am going to show a little replay of the end of the duck race, so you can see what this madness is like all for yourselves. Right, here we go. We'll just get this up, and we're going to show the last 29 seconds of the duck race. Here we go. At the stage, so you can see what it's all about. Here we go.
Followed by the birthday girl now. 27 seconds to go. We've got Little Wing, followed by Charlie, followed by Will. Oh, Willie now, just as a dinosaur. I don't know. Followed by Charlie. It could be the birthday girl. It is her birthday. It's going to be between Little Wing and Charlie at the minute. Gary now coming out of nowhere. Benton through the middle. Gary as Batman. Gary as an 8. Oh, he's fallen back. Gary's still out in front. Charlie's out in front now. I think it's going to be Picard. It could be Willie. It's going to be Bernard. Oh, Picard. Out of nowhere. Winning by a nose. Winning by a carrot. It was fucking Picard. Ha, blimey.
People, if you don't want to watch that, I don't know what's wrong with you. That's all I can say. Like, this is this is prime entertainment. It's bloody good fun. Get yourself over there. It's also a really friendly chat. Oh, and Dave, yep, you may expect an email about the end of the month show. are you coming on? Are you going to do the end of the month show this month? You can stick yes in the chat if you are, Mr. Dave Waffle. I can see you there looking. Expect an email anyway, and you can let me know if you're up for it. The other guest on the show will be Courage and Secure. Thank you all. I would like to thank the fans and the D team. Yes, Packer had a very well-deserved win last night. So this is what we do. This is how we hang. Now, with that, we're going to begin and shift gears a little and talk about victory in Japan Day. And I've been quite curious. I've been trying to figure out the best way to actually go about this. And I'm going to start with an overview of the Japanese, the South Pacific right. Hopefully you're going to start off with an overview of what actually happened in the South Pacific. Well, in East Asia, with the British in particular, because we do look at this from a quite British perspective. So we will begin with that and see how we go. Let me know, can you all hear a dog barking? Is that what the digital dash hound says? Do I need to close the window? Hold on. By the way, just to make this very, very clear, 42 does not own any dogs. That is not. Yeah, who let the dogs out? Jack Russell. Fucking. Yeah, this is not my dog. This is people living in the street behind me. They've got a dog, and they've got several dogs, I believe, and they bark a lot. Right, so here we go. Get this up on the stage, up on the screen. I want to check and see, does this... I think I could do with being just a little bit larger, so we will zoom that in once. Right. In 1941, Britain was an imperial power with colonies across South and Southeast Asia. In December 1941, by the way, those colonies were probably quite pleased to be colonies in 1941, because had it not been for the British, they would not have fared as well as they did in reality, because it was indeed the British that rescued them. They all might want to remember that at some stage. In December 1941, Japan attacked British territories in Hong Kong, Malaya, now Malaysia, Singapore, and Burma, now also known as Myanmar. These objects, photographs, and artwork from the Imperial War Museum's collection tell stories from Britain's bitter and brutal war against Japan. So, Japanese forces invaded Malaya on the 8th of December 1941. Their commander, General Yashimoto, I might just start calling all these fucking generals motorbikes. General Motorbike, launched, because it sounds like a fucking motorbike, launched an aggressive offensive that quickly demoralized and defeated Malaya's garrison of British, Indian, and Australian troops. In this In this photograph taken in January 1942, Japanese troops are seen clearing pockets of resistance in the streets of Kuala Lumpur after occupying the city. Equipment: surrender Singapore. By February 1942, Japanese forces had occupied Malaya. They then launched a new attack against the strategic island of Singapore at the southern tip of the Malay Peninsula. On the 15th of February 1942, British forces in Singapore surrendered to the Japanese. 1 second, I need to cough already. This is not good. Japanese bungee jumper and nip in the air. Oh, fuck, that was classic. Brad, what about you, Sean? I'm not quite sure. It seems to have had its ups and downs. I think we've got some issues with the Chinese at the minute. Right, where were we? Oh, yeah. Then launched new attack against strategic island Singapore at the southern tip of the Malay Precision. On the 15th of February 1942, British forces in Singapore surrendered to the Japanese. This flag was carried by Brigadier Thomas Newbigin as he walked with other officers as part of the surrender party. Prime Minister Winston Churchill would later call the surrender the worst disaster in British history. Am I fucking still muted? No. Oh, Brad's granddad was out there. Right, 1 second. I think I heard noises. Right. Here we go. The flight from Burma. Japan's invasion of Burma prompted many from Burma's Indian, Anglo-Indian and British communities to flee to the safety of India. While some particularly wealthier people were able to leave by air or sea, hundreds or thousands were forced to make their way on foot across Burma's mountainous border with India. Thousands died along the way from disease, exhaustion, malnutrition, or through drowning while trying to cross Burma's many rivers. This photograph shows Indian refugees on the Palm Road from Rangoon in January 1942. By June 1942, the Japanese had driven British, Indian, and Chinese forces out of Burma. In February 1943, 3,000 British and Nepalese Gurkha troops mounted a long-distance raid behind Japanese lines. These troops, known as the Chindits, were commanded by the deeply energetic Brigadier Ward Wingate. This is a bloodshed carried by the Chindits in case they became separated from the unit and needed assistance from local people. It is made of rayon and carries printed messages in 17 languages because the area that they're in had 17 languages being spoken on, including Burmese, Karen, East and West Shan, Thai, Chinese, Tamil, Vietnamese, Bengali, French, and English. This message identifies the Boer as an allied soldier and encourages locals to offer help. So they're talking about this thing here, and this was given to all the soldiers, and it told them what they would get in return for assisting allied soldiers. The Death Railway. After the surrender of Singapore, thousands of Allied servicemen became prisoners of the Japanese. They were subject to brutal regime of violence, callous neglect, and forced labour. Think Bridge over the River Kwai. That's that sort of shit, only it was a lot more inhumane than the film would ever show. From 1492, prisoners were forced to build the Burma-Thailand Railway, which became known as the Death Railway, for its high mortality rate among both prisoners of war and civilian forced labourers. It wasn't just soldiers they had doing this; it was civilians as well. One thing I come across all the time whenever we talk about the Second World War is people saying no more brother wars. Well, I'm sorry. See, if it's a brother war, I'd love to know in what way the Japanese are my brothers, and would I accept someone in my family that treats people in the way that they treated the prisoners of war? They were worse than any other group by quite the mile. This golden nail was used during a Japanese ceremony to mark the completion of the railway. The inscription carries the date 25th of October in Shōsō 18, 1943, the 18th year of the reign of Emperor Shaw, also known as Hirohito. I think I did not bad with that. Oh, fuck. They are indeed, Mr. Paga. The Gurkhas are based. Oh, they were beyond horrible. This is exactly it. Everybody's quick to say what we did in other people's lands, but they're very far from the reality. And we had to go in and, to be totally honest with you, it should have been the people in those countries dealing with all this shit, not us. Our wee bit should have been in Europe. But there you go. The menace of tropical diseases. British troops fighting the Japanese were threatened by deadly and unfamiliar tropical diseases. In 1943, for every soldier evacuated due to battle wounds, 120 soldiers were evacuated due to sickness. Malaria was a key problem, but other diseases including dysentery, skin conditions, and typhus. This 1943 poster by graphic artist Ashton was designed for use by the Royal Air Force in Canyon, now Sri Lanka. It warns airmen against trusting unofficial remedies or precautions against malaria. Beer will not guard against malaria. Yeah, you need to take a malaria tablets. What I will say is whenever they started to take the land back, they had got all the malaria tablets and all the things in place for fighting these troops, and the Japanese did a lot worse with the conditions than the British did in the second wave. I call it the second wave because the Japanese came and pushed us out, then we came and pushed them back to Japan and defeated them, and I would call the bit where we won. I'd call that phase 2. And the final phase. British troops in Burma had to contend with unfamiliar weather conditions. These could include high temperatures and high humidity, as well as monsoon winds and thunderstorms. This 1943 painting by British artist Lee Cole, titled Burma 14th Army, The Battle of Sting Bend, gives a vivid impression of the impact of monsoon weather. A patrol of British soldiers from the Queen's Own Royal West Kent Regiment waved through a flooded paddy field looking for enemy. Overhead, the sky is black with rain clouds. Can we? No, we can't get this any larger. All right. India invaded. In spring 1944, Japan launched an invasion of India. It aimed to capture Imphal, a garrison town in the Indian province of Manipur, and so prevent the British return to Burma. In order to isolate Imphal from a large supply base in Dunbar, Japanese troops attacked the small village of Kamuni, which became the scene of ferocious fighting. This brass hunting horn belonged to Captain John Smith of the 1st Battalion, Queen's Royal Regiment of West Surrey. During the Battle of Kilmarnock, Smith used his horn to rally troops. Smith was killed in action on the 7th of May 1944, aged 22. He has no known grave. Lovely. Smith is commemorated on the Rangoon medal. Now, here we go. We're getting into Slim. The 14th Army Slim Sword. In 1943, the 14th Army was formed in India under the command of Lieutenant General Bill Slim. The Army's task was to retake Burma from the Japanese. Slim's generalship combined effective defensive tactics with imaginative and daring offensives. He was immensely popular with the Indian, Gurkha, and British troops under his command. The badge of the 14th Army, which was designed by General Slim, he planned to invade Burma from the north, and so the sword points downward. The crossguard of the sword forms an S standing for Slim. Well, there you go. The Empire Strikes Back. The war in Burma drew troops from across the British Empire. These two examples of units of insignia. The first is the insignia of the 81st West African Division. It depicts a spider and sall, a character from West African mythology. The division recruited from British colonies including Nigeria, Sierra Leone, and Gambia, and fought mostly in the coastal Arakan region of southern Burma during 44 and 45. The second is the Black Cat of the 17th Indian Division, made up of troops from Indian Northwest Frontier and the Punjab, as well as Gurkhas from Nepal and the British soldiers from Northern England. 1 second. The division fought throughout the Burma campaign from 1942 to 45. Now, confronting the defying wind. While land forces were fighting the Japanese in Burma, the Royal Navy's British Pacific Fleet took on part of naval operations in the Pacific Ocean. On the 6th of April 1945, a British aircraft carrier, HMS Illustrious, was taking part in operations to support American landings on the Japanese island of Okinawa when a Japanese kamikaze, meaning divine wind, pilot attacked, aimed to ram the aircraft into the ship. Hit by anti-aircraft fire, the aircraft missed Illustrious and crashed into the sea and exploded. A few meters from the ship, among the wreckage found in the aircraft carrier's flight deck, was this rubber dinghy. Why the fuck is a kamikaze pilot bringing a fucking survival raft with him? That makes no sense. None whatsoever. Oh, while we're on this subject, the American aircraft carriers had wooden flight decks, and the kamikazes went straight through them and blew up the carriers. They found that to work quite well for them, and then they tried the same trick on a British aircraft carrier and found that it had an armored flight deck, and basically the plane exploded, it went on fire, it made a bit of a dent. They got tractors, they took the fire out, they used tractors to push the aircraft off the side of the ship and basically carried on as normal. They were quite surprised by that. Survivors and Hiroshima. Let's see what to say about this. From the summer of 1944, American heavy bomber aircraft used on captured Pacific Islands had been able to strike Japanese cities. Most of the Japanese cities were made of wood, and they dropped incendiary bombs and just burnt the whole fucking thing down. By summer 1945, these raids had destroyed large areas of Japan's major cities and caused enormous casualties. Oh, the other part of the reason why they had to do that was Japan had outsourced its war machinery at war factories to people's houses. So they made jigs where people could make this component, that component, or the other component, and they did that in their own home, which meant that you couldn't blow up a large factory. However, whenever the city's made of wood, you can burn the whole city down, and that's what they did. On the 16th of August 45, the Japanese city of Hiroshima was hit by an atomic bomb known as Little Boy. The bomb's blast, fire, and radiation effects would ultimately kill more than 100,000 people. These figures, I have no idea where they come from. This glass bottle was found in Hiroshima. It had been deformed by the effects of the bomb blast. And to be honest with you, I'm surprised it didn't smash. Normally, you put a bottle in fire for long enough and heats enough, it explodes. Right. In the days following the atomic bomb of Hiroshima and later Nagasaki, the Japanese government debated whether to surrender. The American aircraft could destroy Japanese cities at will. The Soviet Union had invaded Japanese-occupied Manchuria because they had been fucking about with the Russians prior to the war and a lot of the Chinese. And the Japanese home islands were also threatened with invasion. On the 15th of August, Emperor Hirohito announced Japan's surrender. On the 2nd of September 1945, a surrender document was signed aboard an American battleship moored in Tokyo Bay. A series of further surrender ceremonies followed in areas still occupied by the Japanese. This pen was used by Lord Louis Mountbatten, Supreme Allied Commander in Southeast Asia, to countersign the Japanese surrender at Singapore on the 12th of September. And there's the pen. Now, the fighting did not end. This ink drawing, titled Indian Troops Attacking Positions in Samoa, Java, 1945, by Australian war artist Tony Rath. It shows Indian troops in action in Syria on the island of Java, Indonesia, in December 1945. Though the war between Japan and the Allies ended in August 45, other conflicts in Asia and the Pacific continued. Days after Japanese surrenders, Indonesian nationalists declared independence from the Netherlands. In September, British troops arrived in Java to take the surrender of the Japanese forces and to recover prisoners of war and internees. Relations between the British and Indonesian forces soon broke down, with a major battle erupting in Surabaya. So they'd just been liberated, and already they were not content. So there is a brief overview. I'm going to take this off and have a think about what I'm doing next. Where am I? Yes. Oh, I'm still on. That's good. Oh, that's not legend. That apparently happened. The American big guns couldn't point down. The kamikaze could fly under their range. Tora. If you're buying RockShox forks, the Tora is a good one. That's probably the Tora RockShox is probably the best metal spring fork that you can get by RockShox. There's another little bit of My kin died over there. It was hell on earth and the seas. It really was. And we're going to get into some of that. I'm just going to have a check on my links and see which one I'm going to do next. Yeah, I think what I'm going to do next is what happened to the prisoners. And this is coming from the Australian government and the Department of Veterans Affairs. So we're going to actually trust the government in this one. Share screen. Share screen. Now, this is just one of many instances, many instances that occurred. And it's typical of the conduct of the Japanese army to their prisoners. The Japanese, yeah, Dutch are good sorts, including our Huguenots. Right, here we go. Bum, 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 bum. I think that needs larger. So we're going to change the view. We're going to zoom you in, and we're going to zoom you in again. And we'll see what this looks like. Yep, that'll do. Approximately 455 prisoners of war left Sandakan in the first march. They left the camp in different groups between January and March 1945. By the end of June, 5 months later, only 6 of the group from this first march were still alive at Rangoon. Trying to survive with only 4 days' rations, rice, some dried fish and salt, and burdened with Japanese equipment, sacks of rice, ammunition, and other items, the men struggled through the swamp, the jungle, and mountain forest. Those too weak to continue were shot or beaten to death. Keith Botterill, one of the 6 survivors from the Shandang death marches, later recalled, I'm going to highlight this. 1 second. That was not good. I've seen men shot and beaten to death because they could not keep up with the party. We climbed this mountain about 30 miles out of Randu. We lost 5 men on that mountain in half a day. They shot 5 of them because they couldn't continue, but I just kept plodding along. It was dense jungle. I was heartbroken, but I thought there was safety in numbers, and I just kept going. That is Keith Botterill quoted in Richard Lee Leiden, Fevered and Starved, Commonwealth Department of Veteran Affairs, Canberra, 1999. Many of these men had been sent on rice carrying parties between Rangoon and Paddington, a village approximately 20 kilometres before Randu. Men from some of the groups in the first march just wasted away there and died. Others who couldn't complete the 9-day trips were either shot or beaten to death. No effort whatsoever was made to bury them. They would just pull them 5 or 15 yards off the track and beaten them or shot them, depending on the condition of the men. If they were conscious, and it was what we thought was a good, kind guard, they'd shoot them. There was nothing we could do. Lovely. Still think it was a brother war? Anybody? Because I swear to fuck, my brother did that would be disowned. Those who survived the first march to reach Ramley were herded into insanitary and crowded huts. Many died from dysentery. By 26th of June, only 5 Australians and 1 British soldier were still alive at Ranny. Those POWs who had remained in Alaska were also suffering from malnutrition and disease. Between February and May in 885, the Australian and British prisoners died in the camp. In May, after a large Allied sea-air bombardment of Shannon, the Japanese evacuated the remaining ill and malnourished 800 or so prisoners and burned their camp. Approximately 500 of those, well enough to move, were gathered in 11 groups for the second march to Rani. Those who, incapacitated to move, were left behind in the burnt-out camp to die. Lovely. The second march left Sandviken camp on the 29th of May 1945. The men on the second march to Rani were sicker and even more malnourished. They ate what they could find in the jungle, snails and tree ferns, and the Japanese guards beat them with their rifle butts to urge them on. Those who couldn't walk any further were shot, bayoneted, or in some cases beheaded. Only 183 of the men, 142 and 41 British POWs, survived the second march to Rangoon on the 27th of June, 26 days after they left Sandviken. On the 20th of July, when 4 Australians managed to escape, there were about 40 POWs still alive at Rangoon. Yeah. Not a lot of people survive in this camp. Despite the beatings, bashings, and tiny rations they were given, in August 45, the Japanese massacred the surviving prisoners. Evidence suggests that these last survivors were put to death on 27th of August, 12 days after the official Japanese surrender. Only 6 soldiers, all of them Australians, survived the Sandviken death marches by escaping into the jungle. Private Keith Bollitter, 12th and 19th Battalion, escaped with Maxim Short and 1 other who died in the jungle. Bombardier Richard Dick Batewith, 2nd 15th Australian Field Regiment, escaped alone in the jungle. Gunner Owen Campbell, 2nd and 10th Australian Field Regiment, escaped with 3 others who died in the jungle. Lance Bombardier William Maxim, 2nd and 15th Australian Field Regiment, Private Nelson Short, 2nd and 18th Battalion, and Warrant Officer William Bill Sipcutch, Australian Army Service Corps, escaped with another who died in the jungle. Do you know what? They had a better fucking survival rate in the jungle on their own than they did inside the camp. The men were helped by local peoples after they had escaped the Japanese. Without these survivors, we may have never discovered the fate of more than 2,000 Australian and British POWs. 3 of the survivors of Sandviken Rangoon death marches, Private Nelson Short, Warrant Officer William Switchett, and Private Keith Bill Norton in North Borneo in 1945. There we go. That, my friends, is why the nuclear bomb was necessary. Not only were the Japanese killing the prisoners, their plan was to kill all their own family and fight everyone that came onto their shore. It was going to be a case of literally railing out the whole country, which is really not easy and not good for the Japanese civilians that didn't want to fight. And therefore, we had the nuclear bomb. And that leads me nicely to Paca's idea, which is the Enola Gay. We're going to have a musical interlude. It's going to be Arc in the Dark. It's going to be Enola Gay. And here we go. I bet this goes to advertisements, but we will see.
You should have stayed at home yesterday. Oh, it's can't describe the feeling and the way you lie. These games you play, they're gonna end in all the tears someday. Oh, it's all again. It should have never have to end this way. It's 8:15. That's the time that it's always been. We got your message on the radio. Conditions normal and you're coming home. And all again, it's not the proudest little boy today. Oh, this kiss you give, it's never ever gonna fade away. And all again, should never have to end this way. Oh, there's no again, it should have faded our dreams away. It's 8:15, and that's the time that it's always been. We got your message on the radio. Conditions normal and you're coming home. And all again, it's not the proud little boy today. Oh, this kiss you give, it's never ever gonna fade away.
Grammarly helps me get the best grades possible.
Not that good. Keep me on. And hey, fuck's sake, I couldn't get that thing off. Right, that's better. Where were we? Would somebody else come in? Blah, blah, blah. Go with the flow. Welcome aboard. I'm glad the flow brought you here. So, another guy, you should have stayed at home yesterday. I'd love to know what the option was. I'm really intrigued as to what the other option was because it probably involved killing every Japanese person, and I don't think that's a good idea either. So I'm not quite sure what they wanted and all that. Now, I do have a little bit about the Chindits. We're going to talk about them next, and I found a very little bit of video, so we're going to see if we can do that. Add that to the stage. I'm gonna hit play.
from our initial training on the Antrim Road to the jungles of Burma. We'd come a long way from our initial training on the Antrim Road to the jungles of Burma. With our Northern Ireland accents and our close comradeship, we soon became known to the other regiments as Cunningham's Private Army, after our Colonel James Cunningham of Killilea. We never forgot, though, that we were all part of Lord Louis Mountbatten's Southeast Asia Command. His strategy affected us all, especially that of working in defined territorial admin in which we would operate with airdrops of supplies even if surrounded by the enemy. We'd come a long way from our initial training on the Antrim.
Yeah, we can take that back. Did that play? Oh, I hope that played. That was just a little bit about the Chindits, and we're going to begin to talk about the Chindits now. Bum, 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 bum. No. Good. I'm glad to hear it. Yeah, so there were Ulster men out there, as there always is. I just thought that was an interesting little clip, and now we're going to have a look at the Chindits and what they did and how they went about this. The Chindits, and we will make that a little bit larger. View. Zoom me in. Yep, that will do. There's a song called Hiroshima Monday Armor. Ultravox done a version. Musical interlude. You're shitting me. Budgie, you are shitting me, aren't you? Hiroshima Monday Armor. I'll maybe have a look. I'm going to have a look. I think Budgie's shitting me. Yeah, no, I'm not getting anything from that one. Nola Trans. Oh, the reason why it was called the Nola Gay was the pilot always gets to name the craft. The pilot always gets to name the craft, and the pilot of that aircraft decided to name it after his mother. And on the day he was going to drop that big bomb, he went and painted her name on the nose cone, and it became the Enola Gay, and now she is famous around the world as the person that delivered the bomb. It's an Ultrafox tune. Right. I'll have a look at the Chindits, and whenever I'm doing the next musical interlude, I will have a proper look for it. The Chindit Special Force Burma. Now, while this is called Special Force, it's not Special Forces. There is a difference between the likes of the SAS, the SBS. Now, you can count your Parachute Regiment, your Royal Marines, and the Royal Air Force Regiment as half Special Forces. I would put the Chindits more in that class where they were half Special Forces, but it was a special force because it worked in a special way. That's not to say that they were all special forces. The Chindists were the largest of all Allied special forces of the Second World War, formed and led by General Major Ord Wingate, DSO. They fought behind enemy lines in northern Burma during 1943 and 1944 in the war against Japan. They were unconventional due to their total reliance on airdrops for their supplies and complete dependence on wireless for communications. So basically, these people fucked off in the middle of this big, vast, massive jungle and did their work and got resupplied by air. In March 1942, Lieutenant Colonel Van Wingate arrived in India after carrying out successful guerrilla operations in Palestine and Abyssinia. Using his understanding of guerrilla warfare, he proposed a scheme of long-range penetration operations deep in the enemy-held territories of Burma. In July 1942, the 77th Indian Infantry Brigade was formed for this task. Wingate organized the specifically trained Chindists in commando methods, preparing them for jungle fighting, sabotage, and air supply dropping. The Chindists would infiltrate deep behind Japanese lines in northern Burma. For many months, they lived and fought the enemy in Japanese-occupied Burma, hundreds of miles behind the Japanese forward positions. Their mission was to raid the enemy lines of communications, blowing bridges, railway tracks, and blocking supply routes. See, the problem that we had whenever the Japanese were invading was because this land is so fucking massive and not easy to navigate that you can become encircled incredibly simply. It's really easy because you can't withdraw quickly and you can't form a nice straight line. There isn't the natural borders that go see the shiny she. So it was easy to get pushed out. But what they did was our problem was we had to keep on retreating because we were always going to get surrounded. Was go, fuck that, we'll just be surrounded and we'll go in and do our stuff. And that's how they did it. They would harass the enemy and cause confusion, disrupt their plans, and divert their resources. The Chindists were organized into columns with a strength of about 340. Each column was strong enough to defend itself and capable of mounting surprise attacks on enemy targets, yet small enough for concealment and mobility to evade and slip through enemy nets, because there was a lot of space that wasn't being patrolled, so they could move about. What I have heard anecdotally is that whenever these men were out patrolling in the forest, there would be a wall of silence would come around you as you move through the jungle. The animals would shut up or fuck off. The birds would disappear, and that's not usual for dense jungle. And so you would hit a wall of silence. You would have a wall of silence around you, and you would know roughly how far in front of you all these animals were going to stop moving. But what would happen is you would walk into another wall of silence, and then you would know that the enemy was somewhere close, and that's how they found them most of the time. Columns would combine and to strike larger targets and then disappear back into the jungle. There were two Chindist expeditions into Burma. The first in February 1943, codenamed Operation Longcloth, consisted of a force of 33,000 men who marched over 1,000 miles during the campaign. It was an experimental operation to prove British forces could operate many hundreds of miles from their own bases in the midst of Japanese-controlled territory, and to test Wingate's theories and to gain experience. So they come up with a plan. They come up with a plan and they execute it on a small scale first to see does it work, and then also get the information from that to see whether or not you can scale it. And here we have number 5 column of the 1943 exhibition. Members of 13 Kings, Liverpool, and Manipur Road during training in India. So these are Scouse lads. Something that the Liverpool supporters might want to fucking remember at some stage. Oh, by the way, tangent. I've been a Liverpool fan since I was a child. Since 75, 76. 76, 77. First time we won the European Cup. I've been a Liverpool fan since then. And I've been to Anfield on many occasions. And I will say now that I will never be back inside that stadium. And I also would have difficulty watching Liverpool play football because their support don't seem to like British people. And I don't want to fuck all to do with them, which is unfortunate. But there you go. But yeah. Well, it's the Irish. The interesting thing is that Liverpool is a divided city. There's a hell of a lot of Unionists, loyalists in that city. But it turns out that prior to the Hillsborough disaster, they were the people who went along and paid on the door every week and were not on season tickets. They didn't need to get season tickets because they lived right there in the city. And the people who had all the season tickets were the people who had to travel every week. And then whenever the stadium capacity got reduced, the cap got cut because we put in seats. It was the season tickets holders that got those seats, and they were the Irish and not the British. But it's a fucking... I swear to fuck, if I ever go to a big domestic match, I would say it'll be Rangers as opposed to Liverpool. I'm a G, listen in. So there you go. Yep, those guys not English cunts. Yeah, disaffair. I still support Liverpool Football Club, but that's my team. I want them to win. But I don't think I want to be anywhere near any of their fucking live events because I do not wish to interact with any of those fuckers. Right, back to this. Back to the Chindits. The second expedition in March 1944 was on a much larger scale and consisted of a force of 20,000 men. They were given the name Special Force and was composed mainly of British battalions supplemented by Burma Rifles, Gurkhas and Nigerian battalions and a company of Hong Kong volunteers. Those regiments were all officered by British officers, by the way. Wingate had wanted an airborne invasion. To assist this, United States provided an air task force to be known as First Air Command, equipped with bomber fighter, transport glider, light aircraft. They provided the Chindits with the direct air support and evacuated their casualties. So this is where Kazivac by air began, before we had helicopters. Up until this point, all Kazivacs were done en route by ambulances, and now we're starting to fly them out because we've put these people so far behind the lines that that's the only way we can possibly do it. The fly-in of the bulk of the force, codenamed Operation Thursday, was by the RAF and 1st Air Commando. Gliders were used to land advance parties, who then constructed airstrips for the transport planes. It was the second largest airborne invasion in World War II. Once inside Burma, well-defended strongholds were established from which columns operated. This is similar to the tactics that the Americans employed in Vietnam with their forward fire bases. So you create a large base and you defend it heavily, and invite them to come and attack you because it's nice and strong, and you also use it to send out your patrols. Mm-hmm. Air supply drop zones established in nearby airstrips were built for evacuating casualties. Floater columns patrolled outside the perimeter of the stronghold to counterattack the flanks and rear of enemies approaching or attacking the stronghold. So not only did they have the stronghold and the defences around it, they went and patrolled out around it. Sorry. Right. I did take it back off me. Sorry about this. Tragically, their leader, General Wingate, was killed on a plane crash a few weeks after the launch of Operation Thursday. Towards the end of their operations, the Chindits came under new command, and the plans for them were changed. They were used for tasks that they were not trained for or equipped for, and were kept in the field much longer than Wingate had planned, which made casualties high. Yeah. So you've got one person, train them up. I know how I want this to work. Somebody else new comes in, hasn't done the training, doesn't understand the situation, and gives them fucking shitty jobs and gets them killed. Nice wee picture. One for the road. On the 5th of March 1944, Langsplat Airfield, Assam, England, Chindits next to the glider ready to emplane for a 150-mile flight deep into a jungle of enemy-occupied Burma. This is one of 8 gliders that formed the first wave of invasion. It would carry Brigadier Michael Calvert and his advance party of the 77th Brigade HQ. From the left is Lieutenant Lee. That's him in the combats, a leopard print. American glider pilot, Captain G.R. Turrell, commanding officer of the Hong Kong Volunteers, and Lance Corporal William Young, Hong Kong Volunteers. So, Chindits Military Awards. The primary objective of this project has been to identify the recipients of awards of valor and distinguished service during the Chindit campaigns. This has been accomplished through research in the National Archives in London. The Victoria Cross was awarded to Lieutenant George Albert Carnes, Major Frank Gerald Barker, Rifleman Tuller Pundon, Captain Michael Adams. So, for Victoria Cross, I'm not going to go through all of those. I might come back to the theses. Below are the units that took part in the Chindits campaigns. They are listed in the order they appear in the Chindits Old Comrade Association standard. And this is the standard here, the Chindits Old Comrade standard. Inscriptions on the Chindit memorial additionally includes Indian Engineers, Sappers and Miners, Royal Army Veterinary Corps, Indian Medical and Burma Intelligence Corps. The standard of the old Chindits. Let's see what we've got. 45th Reconnaissance Regiment, Royal Regiment of Artillery, Royal Corps of Engineers, Royal Corps of Signals, 2nd Battalion, Queen's Royal Regiment, 2nd Battalion, King's Own Royal Regiment, 1st Battalion, King's Regiment, 13th Battalion, King's Regiment, 1st Battalion, Bedfordshire and Hertfordshire Regiment, 2nd Battalion, Leicestershire Regiment, 7th Leicestershire Regiment, Lancashire Fusiliers, the Cameroons, that'd be the Scottish Boys, Duke of Wellington's Regiment, the Border Regiment, South Staffordshire Regiment, the Black Watch, the Essex Regiment, the York and Lancaster 142 Commando Company, Royal Army Chaplains, Royal Army Service, Royal Corps of Military Police, Indian Army Service Corps, Royal Army Medical Corps, Rob All My Clothes is what RAMC stands for, Rob All My Clothes. Royal Army Ordnance Corps, Royal Electrical and Mechanical Engineers, the REME. We've got Gurkhas, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 battalions of Gurkhas, Burma Rifles, Nigerian Regiment, 7 Battalion Nigerian Regiment, 12th Battalion Nigerian Regiment, Hong Kong Volunteers, Royal Air Force, and number 1 Air Commando of the United States Air Force. This is primarily a British operation, for anybody that says otherwise, because the vast majority of this are British. That's pretty much all we've got on this. I am going to, 1 second, I'm just going to check the comments. Hertfordshire. Sorry. Oh, I love a Gurkha on a burger. Even a mucker at Real Vincent. Right. Let's see. I think we're going to have, we're on 1 hour and 12 minutes. I think we're going to have a musical interlude, and let me have a think what we're going to have. We're going to have a sea shanty. Yeah, we're going down to Old My Way, and we'll have the trade whenever we get past these adverts. And I'm going to look up that. And while we're doing that, I'm going to see if I can find that other one. It is. They're trying to trick me with their fancy spelling, and me with dyslexia and all that and everything. Right. Let's see. Hold on. We'll take that out. That's good. We will get Old My Way on. And what was I looking for? Right, here we go. All right, we'll see if I can find that other song.
'Tis a damn tough life full of toil and strife we whalermen undergo. And we don't give a damn when the day is done how hard the winds did blow. 'Cause we're homeward bound from the Arctic around with a good ship taut and free. And we don't give a damn when we drink our rum with the girls of old Maui. Rolling down to old Maui, me boys, rolling down to old Maui. We're homeward bound from the Arctic around, rolling down to old Maui. Once more we sail with a northerly gale towards our island home. Our mainmast sprung, our whaling done, and we ain't got far to roam. 6 hellish months we passed away on the cold Kamchatka Sea. But now we're bound from the Arctic around, rolling down to old Maui. Rolling down to old Maui, me boys, rolling down to old Maui. We're homeward bound from the Arctic around, rolling down to old Maui. Once more we sail with a northerly gale to the ice and wind and rain. Them coconut fronts, them tropical lands we soon shall see again. Our stunsail's bones is carried away, what care we for that sound? A living gale is after us, thank God we're homeward bound. Rolling down to old Maui, me boys, rolling down to old Maui. We're homeward bound from the Arctic around, rolling down to old Maui. How soft the breeze through the island trees, now the ice is far astern. Them native maids, them tropical glades is awaiting our return. Even now their big brown eyes look out, hoping some fine day to see our baggy sails running for the gales, rolling down to old Maui. Rolling down to old Maui, me boys, rolling down to old Maui. We're homeward bound from the Arctic around, rolling down to old Maui. Rolling down to old Maui, me boys, rolling down to old Maui. We're homeward bound from the Arctic around, rolling down to old Maui.
Okay, I have found it. I have found the Ultravox one. I've never heard this song before. Comes very highly recommended from the Burger. And we're going to have a listen to this and see exactly what it is. Let's go. Take it to here, and that's it now, fully on the screen. And we will hear what this is like.
Somehow we drifted off too far, communicate like distant stars. Little voices down the phone, the sunlit dust of smell of roses. Someone waits behind the door. Hiroshima, Mon Amour. Riding intercity trains, dressed in European gray, riding out to Echo Beach. A million memories in the trees and sands. How can I ever let them go? Hiroshima, Mon Amour. Beneath the orange tree, where we I go, walk the Polaroids of the past. It just feels like shattered glass with some sorrow. It turns our silhouettes to gold. Hiroshima, Mon Amour.
We've got your pharmacy services
the
covered.
hell?
Protect, check, and manage your health at Boots.
The Shark Flex Breeze Pro Mist, indoors or out, lets you bring the
Yeah, that ended all very abruptly. I had no clue that that was going to end just right then. There we go. Right. Where was I? I'm going to talk a little bit about the internment camps. Yeah, I think we seem to have quite a bit of stuff about why what we did was bad. Let me just say what they did was worse. And if you behave like this, I don't see a lot of reason why you don't get a nuclear bomb at the very fucking least. Be advised, I may get pissed off reading this. The deadly Japanese internment camps of the Second World War. This should be a 3 to 4 minute read, possibly accompanied by a fucking 10-minute rant. We will see. So, over 140,000 Allied military personnel were taken prisoner by the armed forces of Imperial Japan during the Second World War. Details of many of these brave men can now be uncovered using our new Prisoners of War 1939-45 collection. Over 1 million fascinating records relating to Allied POWs held by the Japanese, German, and Italian forces in Asia, Europe, and Africa. Those unfortunate men and women were held in a network of over 500 POW internment camps that stretched from Rangoon down through Malaya, Singapore, Sumatra, and across Indonesia, Dutch East Indies, as far as Rambul and the Solomon Islands. Hundreds of camps also stretched through the Celebes, Borneo, the Philippines, Hainan Island, Taiwan, and Korea. Yeah, they had quite the fucking setup, didn't they? In Japan alone, over 160 POW slave labor camps. I'm always curious about this because I've always known that Japan was the worst place to be taken prisoner. But I don't really hear a lot in the news or the zeitgeist or anything about this or what happened. And I think that's quite important. I think if we have a look at the natural tendencies of these people, diversity doesn't work so good. In Japan alone, over 160 POW slave labor camps exist at the time of surrender, and many more were located in areas of mainland China, including notorious camps in Hong Kong and Shanghai. Towards the end of the war, more and more prisoners were transported to mainland Japan as the need for domestic slave labor increased. Approximately 11,000 tragically lost their lives when Allied air and submarine forces attacked the ships transporting them, as the Japanese refused to paint the Red Cross such vessels while illegally using them to protect supply ships from Allied attacks. So basically they said they were moving prisoners, but they never said on what ship or when. There was a war going on, so it was a bit inevitable. The Japanese internment camps were dangerous places and death rates were incredibly high. According to the findings of the 1946 Tokyo Tribunal, the death rate of Western prisoners in the Far East was an incredible 27.1%. And I think that's going to be quite location dependent. The Americans and leftards used Japanese internment camps as evidence of the racism they created. They tend to ignore what happened in the Japanese camps. Yeah. This is also true. This is also true. A significant number of those captured were members of the British Commonwealth forces, including over 50,000 British servicemen, over 25,000 Indian Army personnel, and 21,000 Australian servicemen, which gives you a really good indication of who there was more of in the area, because whenever you capture the whole army, they get the whole army. The majority of these prisoners were put out to work in mines, fields, shipyards, factories, or the infamous Burma-Slam Railroad. They were expected to complete 12 hours of grueling physical labour in appalling condition each day, while surviving on a meagre diet of about 600 calories. Yeah. That's quite the fucking diet that produces people that look like this, with totally unnatural body shapes. Prisoners were rarely given any fat and were all continuously hungry. More fortunate prisoners were occasionally fed barley, green stew, and meat or fish once a month, while most survived on a diet that consisted of mainly soya beans, rice, and seaweed. Red Cross parcels were sent frequently, but would usually be kept by the Japanese and were very rarely distributed amongst the prisoners. See, the Japanese had no expectation of life as a prisoner. They felt that surrendering was dishonorable and you really should have killed yourself instead. And therefore, they treated the enemy prisoners slightly worse than they treated their own prisoners, which was not good at all. All right. Oh, and by the way, this is the process. This is the proceeds of those enlightened Easterners that give you Tai Chi and all of that sort of stuff that we're supposed to think is all very humane and clever and much better than what we do. Uh, the For the record, the big crime that the British committed on the prisoners that they took was they put all the officers in a stately home and they bugged it and listened to what they said. And they invented a owner of the stately home who was slightly leaning towards the German side and made sure that they got everything that they needed and were well fed and even got bottles of wine and stuff. And yeah, he could speak fluent German and he was military intelligence. That's the bad shit that we did. They just fucking killed people outright. It's quite the difference from, and they say that they're the enlightened people and we're not. I really think people need to have a think about this. Around 1 in 3 military prisoners died from starvation, work, or punishments or disease, while helped by the Japanese. Roughly 39% of all Australian POWs, some 8,131 men, did not survive the horrors of the camps. 12,433 British military personnel also died in Japanese camps, roughly 25% of the total number held by Japanese forces. However, there were many camps from which no person survived. No figures exist for the death rate of Indian servicemen, but it is likely that it was remarkably high, as Indian POWs who refused to defect to the Japanese-sponsored Indian National Army were subject to even more brutal treatment than European soldiers. Yeah, because the other thing is the Japanese are racist. Who will thunk it? It was not only military personnel who were forced to survive the war in Japanese camps. An estimated 125,000 to 130,000 Allied civilians were taken captive. The Japanese had no policy for the treatment of enemy civilian internees. They created hundreds of civilian internment camps in Japan, Korea, Manchuria, China, French Indochina, Thailand, Hong Kong, Republic of Philippines, Burma, Singapore, Sumatra, Java, West Borneo, East Borneo, and the Slavs. The camps themselves differed enormously. The smallest camp, Pangkapitan in Sumatra, held approximately 4 people, whilst the largest, Tibet, held around 14,000. Over 3,000 women were interned in camps in China and nearly 1,000 in Hong Kong, just over 1,000 in Singapore and over 2,000 in the American colonized Philippines. The largest group of women were the 29,000 predominantly Dutch women and their 33,000 children. Notice that. More children than women. That used to be normal. Who were captured and interned in camps in Java and Sumatra and the Dutch East Indies, now Indonesia. So this is how the Japanese treated the this is how the Japanese treated their prisoners. Yeah. Oh, totally. But we do have something that is a lot less. See, I was keeping this for this bit. Hold on. Right, we'll get it on the tube. And now we've got to get a little bit of the commemorations for this. We're going to have a bit of bagpipes. Share screen. This is Edinburgh Castle, and it's going to show you some other places as well. Right, here we go. Bit of bagpipes. there we go. That's a bit of bagpipes, and we have got some old footage coming up. That's really easy. You just fucking widen your legs a bit and piss away. Make sure it goes straight down. Yep. What we do have coming up next is some footage from British Pathy. One momento. Of the events on the day. This is what it looked like in London on Victory in Japan Day. Sorry, I haven't put it up on the screen. I was using the one stage thing doing this, but it's a 2-stage job now. Here we go. 1945 in London.
Wow, on there.
By the way, that's the original video sound cutting in and out. It's not me. This is what British Pathy's got. Oh, yes. Yeah, you would have thought with all these men being demobbed, you would have a bit of a glut in Labour. Yep, you would think with all those people being demobbed, they would have a glutton labour. And here's a really interesting thing. Your chances of getting laid there are 100% if you're female and rather slim if you're male, because there is like a hell of a lot more men than there are women about there. Now, that's just on that day, but in the general population, there was a bit of a reduction of men because so many had been killed during the war. And that did cause problems with relationships. Yeah, a lot of no, we really didn't. What we did have, yeah, no, we still don't have those, mate. We still don't. The Windrush wasn't really the big problem. The Windrush proved that you could get 400 people over to here. The real problem began whenever Transport for London, although I think they've had a name change, so it could have been more than you would think. Mostly they came from American GIs. But what happened, the Windrush proved that you could bring 400 people over here. But then Transport for London set up recruiting depots in the Caribbean and promised them a cheap ticket over plus a job and somewhere to live whenever they arrived. And that's what brought them over by the boatload, literally, because they had somewhere to go to. The first people had to try to figure out a job whenever they arrived. That always is a deterrent to embarking on a new life. But yeah, no, he just says, here, fill in this form and you can start. Mr. Benton, what about you, chum? Welcome aboard. So there was all that. There was all of these soldiers that and a drastically reducing army, and all needed back into work. So it wasn't as cut and dried as you would think. And also, you know that Beatles song, "Get Back." Jojo was a guy who, yeah, no, that was not the original. That was the original song. That was not the original song. Jose was a guy that came from Puerto Rico looking for a better life. Where I come from, we don't need no Puerto Ricans clogging up the buses, man. And that was a dig at the people that were being employed by Transport for London. And even back then, the Beatles got told, no, you can't do that. And they capitulated like a fucking cheap suit. And also probably John Lennon was probably not that into that. So it became what it was. The interviews probably lasted about 4 months. They really didn't care. What they did want was people would come over and work for less wages. Interestingly, Transport for London says they tried advertising in Belfast and Glasgow for workers, but the one thing that they didn't try was increasing the pay. And it was the West Indians that they brought in that accepted the idea of one-man buses without having a conductor and reduced their employment by half. Yeah, so, yeah, great. Fucking amazing. So there you go. Oh, like even in Belfast, you can find Superman. You can find men that are willing to be sober while they're working. That's 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 a general thing with the British working class. Yeah, we do like a drink, but we can't stay sober. We can't stay sober long enough to do our job. Uh, so there you go. Paul was. Oh, interestingly, I seen a documentary on Paul's war career. He spent most of his war career out in India, and he was instrumental in getting the Indian Army to drop its caste system. He spoke all the languages he needed to for being an intelligence officer during that war. And he said that had there been a job for him in the Indian Army, he would have happily stayed there the rest of his life. But the Indian Army was decolonizing, and there wasn't a place for an English officer there. So that's why he came back and he entered politics. But he very well read. And can I find that link? I will see if I can find that link very quickly. It should be in my history. History. Search. Paul. Right. Yeah. If you want a good interview with Enoch Paul talking all about his career in the war, here you go. I watched this a while ago. It was very interesting. There's that. And with that, what else am I going to do? Yes, I'm going to do a very quick end story. Quite not a very nice story, but nothing here tonight's been really nice. So let's just have a quick look at this. This is what the Irish are up to, by the way. Everybody thinks that the Irish have fallen in love with the British and are all on board with everything. Check this shit out. So, in Irish fucking bastardism this week, controversial bonfires lit in Londonderry. The controversial bonfires in Londonderry have been lit in the Bogside and Craigan areas on Friday night. The bonfires have attracted criticism from Catholic Bishop of Derry, Donald McKeown, who claimed that older sinister forces were exploiting young people to stoke up fear and hunger. First Minister Michelle O'Neill said on Friday evening that there's no place in Northern Ireland for illegal, unregulated bonfires or the burning of flags and emblems. And this is the bonfire in Londonderry. You'll see all these Union Jacks here. You'll see pictures of the King. Other names placed in the bonfire was understood to be serving police officer, as well as Billy Wright, the murdered founder of the Lewis Volunteer Force, and Sinn Féin Assembly member Patrick Glurney, because he complained about the bonfire, so they put his name up there too. So this is what the Irish are at. They really don't like it. Also on this bonfire was the Crimson Banner that they stole off the cathedral in Londonderry that was 300 years old and very fucking historical. So yeah, that's what they're at. No, they're not. These are their bonfires that they have for interment. Although there's no link to they've never been able to say the only reason why they have bonfires for interment is because we have bonfires. Although ours have a historical link and the purpose. They replicate the bonfires that were lit whenever King William arrived. They had no bonfires for interment, so But what they are doing is they're stealing fucking historical fucking historical artifacts. Yeah, they copy fucking everything. They can't have they don't have a culture of their own, so they make a fucking very crap. Oh fuck. Yeah. Oh fuck. You do know that there was a famine in Scotland at the same time. And they actually fucked off to Scotland that was also having a famine. You know, it's they're just cunts. Yeah, and there was another attack on Orange Hall this week as well. So no, there is no outbreak of love and peace in Northern Ireland. The scummy Irish are still as scummy as ever and still dislike anything British. So there you go. And with that, I think I'm going to play an outro and get myself sorted out. So there you go. And what will we have for the outro? Yeah, I think we're going to have a bit of harmony, melody, and rhyme. If you're new here, by some strange coincidence, if the wind blew you in, please do hit that subscribe button. We're on the 1,153. Doing this stream's probably dropped me below 1,150. So please, if you're here, hit that wee subscribe, particularly if you've lasted this long. And here we go. Harmony, melody, and rhyme. Yes. Open up. Here we go. And I will put the comments up on the screen as well.
Hello, this is 42 speaking. Welcome to the Resistance. You are not alone, and we shall walk this journey together. What about you, chum? If one brings a guitar and one brings a voice, then they stand together and make their own choice. Let us gather together those that can perform, and from the scarred timbers build our own platform. From that grand house they tried to burn down, there's gold in the ashes if you look around. Let us gather together those that can perform, then from those scarred timbers build our own platform. Build our own platform. We will sing words of wisdom. We will sing world. Harmony, melody, and rhyme. We descended from minstrels in old days of yore. We will create a culture as we did once before. Forced to stand by as our country was sold. Did you really think we'd leave that story untold? So one brings a guitar and one brings a voice. Then they stand together and make their own choice. They have seen the future, the way forward is clear. Among us still stands a modern day Shakespeare. They have seen the future, the way forward is clear. Among us still stands a modern day Shakespeare. Stand by as our country was sold. Did you really think we'd leave that story untold? We will sing words of wisdom. We will sing So one brings a guitar and one brings a voice. Then they stand together and make their own choice. I have seen the future, the way forward is clear. Among us still stands a modern day Shakespeare. Never realized you could not kill a dream. So we will gather together those that can perform, and from the scarred timbers build our own platform. You're talking to 42. What about you, chum? If one brings a guitar and one brings a voice, then they stand together and make their own choice. Sing words of wisdom, we will sing for all time. We will sing for our people, harmony, melody, and rhyme. We will sing words of wisdom, we will sing for all time. We will sing for our people with the ancient trilogy of harmony, melody, rhyme. The gods of water, earth, and land brought us through alive. The earth, the moon, the sun, each became a deity, independent parts of another trilogy. Is it a coincidence, or is it just sublime that we now bring excellence in harmony, melody, and rhyme? Control the mainstream, but you never realized you could not kill a dream. You cannot kill a dream, and we shall walk this journey together.
That Britannia mural is fucking class. I'll have to get a picture of that. The handle will show up next week. But yes, the murals are appearing in England. The flags are appearing in England. We've got George crosses going up everywhere. We've got Birmingham Council that have decided that they're going to take down the flags that the people put up. And I am sitting waiting with the fucking popcorn because that's the touch paper. By the way, everybody, Birmingham, when they begin to take down those flags, the people who put them up have got a decision to make what they're going to do. And that's where it's going to get very fucking interesting. I don't think anybody's thought further ahead than what they're doing, but people decided to put the flags up. Birmingham Council wants to take them down, and let's see how that goes, because that could get really messy. Yeah, well, I would say that the people in Birmingham probably want to send a message to their local council and say, you have failed in putting our English culture front and center in everything you do. Therefore, we have had to erect these flags to make the place look English. And if you want them down again, you need to put our English identity front and center in everything that you do, or the flags stay. And this is going to be the beginning of it. We will see how it goes. Someone. Right, okay, everybody. Thank you very much. I have been 42. You lot in the chat have, as always, been fucking amazing. Thank you. Good night. God bless. See you all next week. I'm out of here. Goodbye.